Welcome back to Zenith Poker. Today we'll be looking at a quiz, and this quiz is titled Flop Bet Sizing. Specifically, we're looking at the big blind versus button 2-bet pots formation. And for this quiz, it'll mostly be, it will be entirely based on the 2.5 big blind open size. So let's go through what the style of question for this quiz will be. So there's 4 questions. Each question has a sort elements thing where you have to pick a bet size and basically attach it to a flop. So the situation is that we're on the button, we open to 2.5 big blinds, small blind folds, and the big blind calls. So after the flop, villain checks, and it's on us. And for each of these flops, we should, from the bet sizes that we're given, pick the size that is used the most frequently. So there's 4 questions like this, and this quiz really tests your ability to differentiate between the different flops and understand the smaller, finer details on how flop texture impacts the bet sizing for both players. All right, so let's go through the questions first, and then I will leave a bit of time for you guys to figure out yourself. You can pause the video, write the answers down in the comment section, blah, 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 and then I'll go through the answers. Okay, so for this first situation, we've got these 5 different flops. We've got the Jack 9-6 rainbow, Queen 9-6 rainbow, Queen 10-7 with the 10-7 flush draw, Jack 10-3 rainbow, and Jack 8-5 two-tone with the Jack 8 flush draw. And so all you would have to do is pick a size that you like and put that size next to that flop. And if that flop is the size that's used most frequently out of the 5 sizes in the simulation, you would get a point for that question. All right, so that's question 1. So differentiating between these 5 different flops. As you can see, they're somewhat similar. And let's move on to question 2. Question 2, exact same situation. Different set of 5 flops. So we've got the Ace 10-9 with a flush draw, Ace Jack 7 rainbow, King 10-8 rainbow, King 9-7 with a flush draw, and Ace 9-8 with a flush draw. So once again, all you have to do is pick one size and put it next to one of the flops. So if you like this size for this flop, and this size for this flop, 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 you would go and just choose which size you would use on that flop. All right, and it's the size that's used most frequently out of the 5 sizes. So in the simulation, the sim actually gets the chance to split, but it's not asking which sizes you would use. We're asking which size you would use most frequently with your range here on the button. Question 3. Once again, we've got some similar flops here. 10-6-2 with a flush draw, 10-5-2 rainbow, 9-8-2 rainbow, 10-7-2 rainbow, 9-7-2 rainbow. So once again, pick a size for each of the flops, and if you're correct, you'll get a point for each correct answer. And then the last question is these 5 flops, 8-7-3 with the flush draw, 7-6-2 rainbow, 9-8-2 with a flush draw, 10-9-4 with rainbow, and Jack 8-3 rainbow. And then once you've put all your answers in, you can press the quiz summary here. I'll leave a link to the quiz in the comment below. You can click the quiz summary and then press finish quiz to see your score. And it'll compare your score to the average score of all the people who have tried the quiz. All right, so I'm going to go and go through the answers now. So let's refresh the page. So if you want to try the quiz yourself, just use the link in the comment, sorry, in the description. And if you have already signed up, you'll be able to access this. If you haven't signed up, just sign up and then go to this link if you can, and try the quiz. All right, if you're not ready for the answers, I'm going to tell them to you anyway, so go away and come back. All right, hopefully you've gone away and come back, or you've magically done the quiz, or you just don't really care and you just want to get into the juicy answers to this fantastic quiz. Let's go through the answers. All right, so I'm not going to pull up all of the sims. Actually, I don't think I'm going to pull up any of the sims. We're just going to go through the answers and try and talk about it, try and reason through each of the sizes. So here we've got the question 1, Jack 9 6, Queen 9 6, Queen 10 7, Jack 8 5, and Jack 10 3, and we're asking most frequently. All right. Now on a lot of these flops, here in this particular formation, there will be a variety of different sizes, but the one that's used most frequently is the question that's being asked. So the first thing that you want to notice is the span of the boards, right? And each of these are actually 6 span, but on certain boards you're going to have more overcards and more straight draws in terms of the offsuit combinations of straight draws from the preflop ranges. Okay, so if the board in general, if the board has a flush draw, you're not going to be using sizes that are too big, just because the big blind is going to relatively easily defend against a big overbet or any kind of overbet. So you're not really going to use a size that's too big. So we automatically know for this bet 8.2, which is about 1.5 times a pot, we're not going to be using it for the Queen 10 7 with a flush draw or Jack 8 5 with a flush draw. If we look here at the Jack 9 6, and maybe we compare it to the Jack 10 3, like this Jack 9 6, we should have a think about how many straight draws hit this Jack 9 6 and how many straight draws hit this Jack 10 3, because just as we discussed, this overbet size isn't really going to be used on the flush draws, so it's going to be used on the non-flush draws. So these two, Jack 10 3 and Jack 9 6, so let's think about how we would compare these. So for both of these, and even on the Queen 9 6, there will be some overbetting. All right. The question then is, which of these uses the overbet as its sort of main bet size, right? The bet size is used most frequently out of all the sizes that it could use. And so if you're thinking of a hand on sort of Jack 9 6, the Jack 9 6 in the buttons position, the straight draws between the 9 and the 6, if we could sort of count up the number of open-enders and double gutters, there's going to be a fair amount more situated in the big blinds range between the 9 and the 6 than at the bottom of the 10. Mainly because of those offsuit combinations of 8-7 offsuit. And so 8-7 offsuit is the open-ender at the bottom, but there's also going to be potentially some other open-enders like the 10-8 offsuit. And then there's also hands that are, in this particular situation, double gutters. Which is a double gutter? I'll be wrong about that. So Jack 9 6, so they had 7 open ender on both sides, 10-8 open ender on both sides. The king, the queen 10 is open ender on both sides. So there isn't a double gutter. There's just open enders. So there's just 3 open enders. So yeah, in comparison to the Jack 10, you have also 3 open enders, but no double gutter. Queen 9 6, that's the one we got double gutter here with the 10-8. So 10-8 is the double gutter on the Queen 9 6. I mean, the difference between an open ender and a double gutter is very, very minute anyway. Most people who have double gutters just call them open enders anyway, so doesn't really matter. the point I'm trying to make is that if you're looking at the offsuit combinations of those particular hands, the open enders, on the 9, the 6 is going to be the 8-7, and the Jack 9 and the Queen 9 is going to be the 10-8. But here, what we need to have the offsuit double gutter, sorry, offsuit open ender, we'd have Queen 9, King Queen isn't in there, right? King Queen suited, 3 bets all the time pre-flop, and King Queen offsuit, 3 bets at high frequency pre-flop. So the King Queen on this Jack 10-3 isn't as big of a threat. Sure, you've got Queen 9 offsuit, and you've got 9-8 offsuit, but with Jack 10, you're not going to have hands like 9-8 suited or 8-7 suited, specifically because, well, those suited connectors should 3-bet pre-flop. So a lot of those suited connected hands that hit this Jack 10-3 for the open ender might not make it in there. So the necessity to sort of overbet to get sort of max value from open enders and stuff isn't as going to be as prevalent on the Jack 10-3 as it would be on the Jack 9-6, just because those offsuit combinations make the open ender pretty frequently on the Jack 9-6. It also makes it pretty frequently on the Queen 9-6, so that's why you're going to be overbetting the Queen 9-6 as well. But just the difference in rank, usually if the rank is a little bit, the top card rank is a little bit lower on these sort of 6-band boards, you're going to see a little bit more overbetting. So for that reason, we've got the Jack 9-6 going for the overbet size. All right, so let's think about the other sizes. All right, so while we're at this, let's focus down on this Jack 10-3. So Jack 10-3 here on the button, right? Sure, there's a bunch of open enders and gut shots and stuff, but with Jack 10 in particular, many of those hands, many of those gut shots, especially at the top, just aren't in the big blind's range. So it's not actually necessary to use overbets to narrow down the big blind's range, because there's just not that many straight draws at the top, right? So I'm talking hands like Ace King, Ace Queen, King Queen, right? Those are the 3 straight draws at the top of the Jack 10. So for Jack 10 in particular, in this particular formation, the overbet is not as necessary. Instead, you're going to want to deny equity from the gut shots below the Jack and the 10. So that means that you're actually going to be wanting to bet at a slightly higher frequency with a wider range, so you can go a bit smaller and bet really thin. And on the button, you're going to have loads of Jack X and 10X, so you're going to have loads of middle pair here, and that middle pair definitely does want to deny equity from the gut shots and get value from, you know, ace highs and 3x combinations. So for that reason, on this board, even though there is some overbetting, that's not sort of the main feature of this board. The main feature of this board is that you're actually going to be betting small for with a wider range. So here we've got the quarter pot bet putting into the Jack 10-3. And now the question is, while we're doing this Queen 9-6. So Queen 9-6 is sort of going to be pretty similar to the Jack 9-6, right? Except there's going to be less overbetting. So if there's less overbetting, we're going to do something with another size, right? On Jack 9-6, sure, you're going to have overbetting as its main size, but you're usually going to have a second size as well. On Queen 9-6, you hit the Queen a bit more, right, than the big blind does. The big blind doesn't have any Ace Jack offsuit, but they do have Ace Jack suited, but they do have a little bit of Ace Jack offsuit. On Queen 9-6, they don't have any Ace Queen at all. So for that reason, on Queen 9-6, you're going to have a pretty nice time with all of your top pairs. And that means that weaker Queen X can go a little bit, it's just a stronger hand, so it can go a little bit thinner, bet a little bit more frequently. So for both of these flops, for the Jack 9-6, the second most prevalent size is going to be around half pot. And so here on Queen 9-6, you sort of get a bit of an inversion between the overbet size and the half pot size. So Queen 9-6 is going half pot a little bit more and overbetting a little bit less, and Jack 9-6 is going for the overbet at a high frequency and going for the half pot a little bit less. So slight differences there. And now we're left with these two boards to look at, the Queen 10-7, the Jack 8-5. So Queen 10-7, here on the button, you look at the Queen 10-7, you see you've got two Broadway cards. And the two Broadway, the Broadway that you have is the Queen, right, which means that the big blind, maybe they got a little bit of King Queen offsuit in their range to make top pair second kicker. But other than that, they're relatively capped. Sure, they've got a little bit of Queen 10 offsuit, but Queen 10 suited, probably with 3-bet a decent frequency pre-flop. 10-7 suited, also 3-bets at a decent frequency pre-flop. So that reminds me, I should probably pull up the pre-flop ranges just so you guys can take a look at it. So you guys know what I'm talking about. Button opens 2.5. Small one folds. See that 10-7. 3-bets a fair amount pre-flop. Queen 10 offsuit doesn't. Ace Jack offsuit. 3-bets a little bit. There's no Ace Queen, King Queen. 3-bets a fair amount. So that means that in terms of 2-pair combinations, there's not going to be that many 2 pairs with a 10-7. There's going to be Queen 7 suited. There's no Queen 7 offsuit. So in terms of suited, in terms of Queen 10, there's going to be a bit of Queen 10, 2 pairs, and whatnot. So with the presence of the flush draw, you also have to think about how many gut shots and open-ended straight draws there are on this particular board, and there's a lot. There's loads of them. Basically, any King Jack, Jack 8, Jack 9, all those are going to be in the big blinds range at a pretty good frequency, as well as the vast variety of gut shots on this particular board. There's going to be loads of gut shots that hit the Queen 10-7, mainly because of the 10-7. So this rank between 10-7 and 9-8 is the open ender, but stuff like Jack 8, Jack 9, 9-6, 8-6, all of those are going to be straight draws. They're beefed up a bit by the Queen, right? The Jack 9 and the Jack 8 are beefed up a bit by the Queen. You also got the King Jack at the top, Ace Jack as well, and King 9 got shot. So you got a lot of different straight draw combinations on this particular board. The only straight draw that you don't have is Ace King, right? And there's a gut shot anyway, compared to this Jack 10-3 where you don't have any Ace King or Ace Queen or King Queen, right? Because the King Queen suited 3-bets all the time pre-flop, and then a decent chunk of the King Queen offsuit 3-bets pre-flop. So that slight difference in the single rank between the Jack and the Queen, and bringing the 7 closer to the 10, right, instead of a 3, right, it suddenly produces a lot of gut shots down the bottom. You got a lot of gut shots around the Queen and the 10. So there's going to be loads of gut shots on open enders here. So for that reason, you would want to be betting reasonably big to push your top pair, top kicker advantage over your opponent. Yeah, you can check back a whole bunch of other stuff. Your opponent's going to have a decent time defending, especially if they've got a flush draw or a queen. So basically any flush draw can defend against this pot size bet on the flop. And now that leaves Jack 8-5, which is a 3/4 pot bet. And sort of you can see the reason behind this. I mean, you're going to be going for a pot size bet at a decent frequency as well, and vice versa. This Queen 10-7, maybe you're going to go for 3/4 pot. It's going to be pretty similar. It's just that here on the Jack 8-5, just potting it right out of the gate when your opponent has Ace Jack offsuit still, and King Jack offsuit, they've got a lot of decent top pairs. They're going to have some of the 2 pairs, Jack 8, Jack 5 suited, 8-5 suited, right, at full frequencies, because these always call rather than 3-bet. So you're going to have some some more strong hands to defend with on this particular flop. So you still want to bet kind of big, but you don't want to be betting too big at too high of a frequency. So that's why you're going to like the 3/4 pot for a decent size, and that way if you have ace jack yourself, you can get nice easy value. But on queen 10-7, if you have ace queen, your hand is a lot stronger than ace jack is. So on queen 10-7 with the flush draw, your ace queen is a lot stronger than ace jack is on the jack 8-5. So that way that's the reason why you're going for this pot size bet at a slightly higher frequency. All right, let's go to the next one. So once again, this whole quiz is about understanding the small differences between the different flops. Okay, so let's move on to this one. So these are all either ace high or king high boards. They're relatively they're relatively high span, right? So I think all of these are 6 span actually. Now out of the gate on ace high and king high boards, usually on king high boards you don't see that much overbetting, with the exception of like king queen. I think the king queen boards maybe see a little bit. The reason behind this is because you don't really need to, and basically any king X in the button's opening range is going to be pretty strong, mainly because the big blind doesn't have the ace queen, ace king or the king queen at a decent frequency. So a lot of those hands will want to be betting to get value from weaker pairs. It's slightly different on the ace high boards where you have like a good 2-pair advantage. And I'm giving the answer away here. The ace jack 7, you've got a huge 2-pair advantage with the ace jack, and you've got that top pair top kicker with the ace king and ace queen advantage, which doesn't exist in the big blinds pre-flop range. So on this particular board, ace jack 7, we're going to be going for the other bet at a good frequency compared to the other bet sizes, because the big blind doesn't have ace jack at full frequencies. They're 3-betting all the ace jack suited, and they're 3-betting a decent chunk, about half of the ace jack offsuit. So for that reason, they don't have top pair top kicker. So they don't have the 2-pair ace jack, and they don't have any of the top pair top kicker or top pair second kickers, ace king and ace queen, which alongside the ace jack can just go over bet and then pot the turn, and then if they don't improve, these 2 hands will just check back on the river, or maybe go for like a thin value bet, and then ace jack just rips it in. So over bet the ace jack 7 a good chunk of the time. Now looking at other sizes, all right, so let's think about the next biggest size. So pot size bet. Pot size bet, look at the sort of pre-flop ranges again. When would you go for the pot size bet? You're going for the pot size bet when you've got some fairly strong hands in your range compared to the opponent, and you want to sort of polarize, but you don't want to go too big. So for that reason, maybe you want to help try and decide between this ace 10-9 and this ace 9-8, and have a think about how this pre-flop range interacts with that particular board. So with the ace 10, ace 10-9, what's going on here? Well, there's going to be a fair amount of looking at the button's opening range. Button's opening range is going to have a lot of ace king, ace queen, but the big blind's calling range here in the green doesn't have any of that: ace king, ace queen, ace jack. So the on this particular board, and on both these boards, they're both ace high, the button will have a lot of top pair with a strong kicker. What is the difference between these 2 boards? Well, it's got to do with the number of gut shots between the ace and the 10. And there's an open end between the ace and the 10 and the 10-9, and the number of gut shots between the ace 9 and 8. The king queen in particular, and to a lesser degree the king jack, those hands both make gut shots on this ace 10-9, but don't make gut shots on the ace 9-8. And so the gut shots here with the king queen and the king jack these two hands can be used as bluffing candidates in the button's betting range for this particular flop. But the big blind will have a little bit more difficulty defending with those particular hands. We also want to look at the number of two-pair combinations. So with the ace 10 9, there's going to be slightly fewer two-pair combinations. All the 10 9 suited is three betting pre-flop. The set of 10s, the set of 9s is all through is non-existent. So pocket 10s and pocket 9s are three betting all the time pre-flop. So you're really only worried about ace 10 offsuits, ace 10 suited, three bets a little bit of the time, and then all the ace 9 offset calls. When in comparison on the ace 9 8, the set of 8s is available. All the ace 8 and ace 9 two pairs are available, and a good chunk of the 9 8 suited and 9 8 offsuit two pairs will be available. So for that reason, this ace 10 9 board is going to be a little bit better for the button compared to the ace 9 8. Got some more gut shots around the ace between the ace and the 10. We've got we don't have to worry too much about the sets of 10s, sets of 9s. They're not in pre-flop range. We're only worried about ace 10, ace 9. So still can go for a decent sized bet, get value from a flush draw, use those bluffing candidates. So here we're going to go for a pot size bet. So then what are we going to do with this ace 9 8? We're going to go for the next size. Well, maybe you would use sort of a 3/4 pot or pot size bet on this particular board sometimes, but really with the presence of the set of 8s and all of these two pair combinations, ace 9, ace 8, 9 8 offsuit, it's going to be a little bit too hasty to put a good chunk of money in on the flop for this particular flop. So you usually want to instead try and slow down, bet a little bit smaller and a little bit wider to deny equity with all these gut shots around the 9 and the 8. Here on the 9 8, the big blind will have more of the straight draws that they can use to defend, specifically the gut shot straight draws. And so those gut shot straight draws, they on a flush draw board, even on a flush draw board, they still have some equity to deny. And in particular, there's backdoor flush draw overcard hands to the 9, which there's going to be more prevalent on the 9 kicker rather than the 10. The 9 middle card rather than the 10 middle card. There's going to be more sort of 2 overcard plus backdoor flush draw hands to a 9x hand in the buttons range. So here on this ace 9 8, you can go a little bit smaller, and even with the stronger 9x combinations, some of the 10x combinations, especially like 9x with the flush draw here in this buttons opening range, like this 9x with a flush draw. All these hands can go for a sort of smaller bet to deny a bit of equity from straight draws and overcard with backdoor flush draw type hands. So here we're going to go for more of a half pot bet. And then we've got these two boards to look at. This King 10 8 is sort of similar to that Jack 10 board. The same kind of idea to the Jack 10 board. When we've got these two Broadway hands, two Broadway cards, meaning that we've made a lot of top pair and a lot of second pair, and the board is very, very gut shot heavy. You usually want to bet a little bit bigger and deny equity, especially on the rainbow boards. So bet a little bit smaller and more frequently to deny equity on the rainbow boards compared to the flush draw boards where you usually want to bet less frequently and a little bit bigger, just because there's more equity to deny, because a lot of those gut shots might also have flush draws and backdoor flush draws. So here on the King 10 8, right, there's going to be King 10 two pairs for the big blind. There's going to be 10 8 two pairs. I'm not too worried about that. The main thing is that the big blind doesn't have these strong top pairs, so like there's not going to be too much top pair even second kicker, right, with the king queen. There's not going to be a lot of that. There's not going to be a lot of king jack, and so the big blind isn't going to like raise very aggressively on this particular board because you're going to run into your ace king. So here, if you decide to on the button bet a 10, right, you can actually get value from weaker hands like an 8, or a weaker 10, or a weaker pocket pair, a gut shot, an open ender, back to flush draw type hand, which your opponent needs to float, right? Especially if you bet very small. So the trick here is to notice that you've got the king, your range of one pair hands are well protected by ace king, so your opponent can't raise like top pair, second kicker type hands. They have to like stick to 2 pair plus, and if they have to stick to 2 pair plus, then like how do they allocate them across the flop raise plus the turn raise plus the river raise? They don't have the set of tens. The set of 9s is, you know, at not at full frequency. The king 10 is not at full frequency. There's no king 8 offsuit, so you're not too worried about like 2 pair combinations. And so second pair is a decent candidate to want to bet on the flop for a small size, deny equity from the wide variety of different relatively weak draws on this particular board. And that leaves this king 9-7. King 9-7 with a flush draw. There's relatively strong draws when there's a flush draw, so usually when there's strong draws on the board, you don't want to be betting too small just because it's too easy to defend, and like backdoor flush draw type hands can defend pretty easily. Sure, like you have a king and a 9, but if you look at the number of 9x combinations in the big blind's range, there's actually a lot of them, and they don't all like 3-bet preflop. Like you don't have all this ace-9 stuff 3-betting preflop. So the 9x combinations don't want to necessarily go for a very small bet, mainly because it's a flush draw board and there's not a lot of point. You just, you know, run into a flush draw and the flush comes, and you just, you know, you could have checked back and then saw that the flush was there, and then your hand is a lot weaker, rather than betting and then putting money in while your hand is a relatively middling hand still. So for that reason here on this king 9-7, you don't want to be betting too much 9x. Also the straight draws between the king and the 9, they're all gut shots. So if you do have like a strong 9x, like an ace-9 hand that you want to bet, you're going to want to bet that relatively big to fold out all those gut shots between the king and the 9. So folding out all this queen jack offsuit, queen 10 offsuit, jack 10 offsuit, and obviously the suited ones, basically automatically by going for the 3/4 pot bet here on this particular board is sort of more ideal. Obviously, you're going to have some like pot size betting, some half pot betting on this sort of board as well, but the one size used most frequently is this 3/4 pot bet. All right, so that's question 2. Let's go to question 3. All right, so question 3. Here we've got a selection of 10 high and 9 high boards. Once again, they all look pretty similar, but we're going to discuss the differences between them all. So we'll start at the top and look at the biggest size. So out of all these boards, which size do we want to bet the biggest, and why? So here, this big size is only 1.5 times a pot. And in reality, as the top rank of the board like shrinks down, the overbet sizes can actually increase. So in the sim that I sort of made this quiz from, there's probably going to be an even bigger size than 1.5. It's just for this particular question set, all those bigger sizes will essentially be shrunk down to 1.5. And by bigger, I mean like 2x, 2.5x, maybe 3x times a pot. So if you're thinking about that, which of these boards does that actually make the most sense on at the highest frequency? Well, let's have a look at it. We'll have a look at the big blind's preflop range. Big blind's preflop range doesn't have the overpairs on all of these boards. Specifically, they don't have hands like pocket 10s, pocket 9s, pocket jacks, which really benefit from folding out overcards, especially overcards and gut shot hands on a lot of these boards, because then when a gut shot completing turn completes or an overcard completing turn completes, these overpairs just don't really care. If you fold them out when the overcard comes on the turn, doesn't matter, it doesn't phase those particular hands. So on which of these boards is that the most necessary? It's actually this 982. So the 982, it's got the 6 span, right? So it's got 6 different ranks which can form a straight. So on 9-8, you're going to have the 10, the jack, the queen, the 7, the 6, the 5, and it's going to have a lot of open enders and also a lot of gut shots. So the actual number of open enders and gut shots is 9 different types, I think, if I remember correctly. So there's going to be 10-7 as an open ender, jack 10 as an open ender, 7-6 as an open ender, and then you're going to have stuff like queen 10 gut shot, jack 9 gut shot, jack 7 gut shot, 10-6 gut shot, 7-5 gut shot, 6-5 gut shot. I think I counted them all. Let me know if I made a mistake in the comments. So loads of different straight draws. Sure, there's not going to be all of those in the preflop ranges in terms of the offsuit combinations, but there's going to be a damn load of suited combinations of those in the preflop ranges for both players actually on a 9-8 board. So that means that here the button, with their overpairs, the ace-9 hands, they can go for an overbet to try and fold out those gut shots, fold out like just random overcards, and basically set up an asymmetric range going to the turn where essentially you've got value hands in terms of overpairs and top pair, top quicker, and the big blind only has made hands that really continue, or like ultra strong draws in terms of the open ender going to the turn. And even if you go into the turn and the open ender bricks off, that open ender is going to have difficulty calling another bet, especially another big bet on the turn. So you're going to have a big range asymmetry. So when one of those overcards comes, it's good for the button. When one of those straight draws comes, it's going to be pretty reasonable for the button as well. So overbetting on this 982 is going to be pretty good. Of course, on a lot of these, you can see that overbet's going to be pretty good as well. Like 972, you're going to be overbetting at a decent frequency as well, although there's just less straight draws, so it's not as necessary. 10-6-2, there's a lot of straight draws. You're going to have some overbetting there. But remember, it's a flush draw board, so you usually don't want to overbet the flush draw boards too frequently. So definitely, if this was 10-6-2 rainbow, you would want to be overbetting this board as well at a high frequency. 10-5-2, 10-7-2, these boards you just have gut shots. You have one open ender in each of them, the 4-3 and the 9-8 on 10-7-2 and 10-5-2. But you don't have that many different straight draws, and the rank and the span of these are both span of 4, I think. So with these 4 span boards, you don't necessarily want to be overbetting too frequently, just because it's not necessary to do that. Unless the rank is like a 9, then you can throw some in with like pocket 10s or whatever. All right, let's move on to the next one. 10-6-2, right? If it was rainbow, you would overbet it because of a flush draw. It's a bit easier to find hands to defend. You don't really have that asymmetry in terms of the flush draws. So if you go for a pot size bet, you can still get the same effect of folding out the straight draws. So when the straight draws come and the flush draw doesn't, you're going to have a decent setup for yourself going into the turn. Also, when there's a flush draw on the board, like these strong hands, like the overpairs and top pair, top kicker, they're actually less strong when there's a flush draw on the board. It's not super intuitive to the reason why that is, or maybe it is intuitive, depends on how long you've been playing. But when there's a flush draw on the board, like you can just think about it, right? Like one third of the time, the run out is going to complete the flush, and your top pair, top kicker or overpair, whatever, is just going to feel really shitty, having put so much money in on the flop. So usually you want to size down a little bit, but still keep the pressure on. And so here, the pot size bet makes the most sense. You're just going to be potting it into the opponent. They're going to be folding out all those gut shots between the 10-6 and the 6-2. There's no open enders here, so you don't have to worry about that. So you're going to have a gut shot advantage when any of the cards between the 10 and 6 come and the 6 and the 2 come. You will complete some gut shots. You're also going to have some an over card advantage, because if you pot it into your opponent and they've got naked overcards, it's going to be difficult for them to defend. Sure, they can probably find a defend if they have backdoor, like 2 overcards with a decent backdoor flush draw. There's nothing you can do about that. And betting too much bigger just ends up isolating yourself against hands that are stronger and flush draws. All right. Next one. Next bet size is the 3/4 pot. 972. Right, 972 is a 5-span board. There's not going to be anywhere near as many straight draws as the 982. So yeah, sure, there is going to be a bit of like pot size betting and over betting on this particular board, just less often. More often what you can do is just, use some of the top pairs that you have and bet a decent chunky size to get overcards to fold. That's really what's going on here. And so you can go to the 3/4 pot bet at a decent frequency. Of course, the other bet sizes aren't too bad either. You can there's nothing wrong with going for an overbet sometimes, especially with those particular hands, pocket 10s, ace 9, which really benefit from it. But weaker 9x, if you overbet, you're just going to run into ace 9 yourself. So you're just going to get wrecked there. So if you go for a 3/4 pot bet starting off, you can get folds from the overcard type hands and put a lot of pressure on those gut shots, at least get some value from gut shots. But you're not really trying to set up a straight draw advantage on the turn. You're just trying to set up sort of an overcard advantage on the turn. So when the king comes, the queen comes, the jack comes, and you've got your ace 9, whatever, right? You don't really care because a lot of those overcards in the big blinds range would have folded out all 3-bet preflop. So the new top pairs on those particular turns is going to be too dense in the range. So you can still probably get an extra sheet of value with like a top pair, second kicker, third kicker kind of hand, even though the run out has come an overcard. All right, so these last two, 10-5-2, 10-7-2, these probably feel pretty similar. Now notice that 10-5-2 and 10-7-2, these are both 4-span, but as soon as you go 10-6-2, it becomes 6-span. So it's a very subtle difference between the ranks of the cards there. You just have to, this is one of the things you have to remember, like, is this board 4-span or is it 6-span? Because once it becomes 6-span, the strategy changes significantly. So just as we discussed on like 10-6-2 Rainbow, where you're going to go from some overbetting, on 10-7-2 and 10-5-2, you're not going to go do any overbetting at all because these are both just 4-span, right? There's only one open ender and two gut shots. So here around the 10-7, here around the 4, the 5 and the 2. So what does that mean? That means that for these two boards, usually what you're going to do is bet a little bit smaller. On a 10 high board, in contrast to a 9 high board, there's one less rank of overcards. So on the 9 high board, obviously there's 5 ranks of overcards. On the 10 high board, there's 4 ranks of overcards. So an overcard is less of a problem. I mean, it's still a problem with your top pair, whatever. But here on the 10-5-2, you can see that, maybe you've got an overcard. So maybe you've got a top pair hand, right? And you can see that the big blind will have hit the 5, a decent amount of the time, will have hit the 2 a decent amount of time, and we'll have loads of gut shots between the 5 and the 2. So if you've got like a 10x hand, like how do you get value from those ranks around the 5 and the 2 and sort of under pairs, pocket 8s, pocket 7s, pocket 6s? It's pretty straightforward. Like you can go for a half pot bet here and just milk out that value against weaker pairs. And then on 10-7-2, it's even those straight draws are even less of a problem because there's you would have them in your preflop range, and a lot of those suited combos will have 3-bet preflop, 10-7, 3-bets preflop, and the button itself has more 7x. So compared to the compared to 5x, so slightly more 7x compared to 5x in the buttons range compared to the big blinds range of the 10-7-2 versus the 10-5-2, and the straight draws are different. Straight draws are between the 10 and the 7 rather than the 5 and the 2, and so the button's going to have at least equal sort of play on those particular runouts. So with a top pair or even a second pair, you can bet small, get value from the overcards, get value from those gut shots, get value from ace high, and you can do it at a decent frequency. Are you going to get raised very often on 10-7-2 board? Yeah, I mean, your opponent's going to raise you with all the ace-10 and stuff like that at a decent frequency. There's not much that they can do about that, and they don't have that many combos of very strong hands. Sure, they got the ace-10, but in terms of two pair, do they have? I mean, there's not going to be any 7-2 compared to the 10-5-2. You're going to have both 10-5 and 5-2, but here you don't have 10-2, you don't have 7-2. So sure, you got 10-7, but a lot of that 3-bet's pre-flop. Yeah, the sets are both the same. So 10-7-2, less combos of two pairs. 10-5-2, you've got the 5-2, you've got the 10-5, and a little bit of 10-2. So just more two-pair combinations. So here, when they don't have a lot of two-pair combinations, you can your top pair hands are just stronger, and so like you're going to want to bet deny equity from overcards, get value from overcards, get value from ace high, and you can do that at a high frequency bet small. All right, question 4. These boards between jack high and 7 high, there's actually not that many different 8 high and 7 high boards. I was trying to like find maybe when I redo the sims and use bigger overbets, they'll show up more often. But definitely on boards like 7-6-2, 8-7-3, you can have overbets that are bigger than 1.5. And you probably should be using overbets that are bigger than 1.5, because the top pair and the top pair and the weakest overpair above the board really start benefiting from really big overbets by getting a good chunk of the overcard hands in the big blinds range to fold out, while simultaneously getting called by one pair hands. It's really quite fantastic setting that up. But alas, in the sims that we've got, that size isn't used. So out of these 5 sizes, that's the question. Out of these 5 sizes, which is the one that's used most frequently? So yeah, let's go for that. All right, so let's go top to bottom. Overbet. Which of these boards are we going to overbet? Same kind of deal. Right, if you have lots of straight draws, right, and your rainbow board, overbetting is a decent play, right? So which of these has got a lot of straight draws and has a rainbow board, right? So it's the 7-6-2 and the 10-9-4. Now, 7-6-2, I admit there is going to be some overbetting, but that overbet size is going to be actually bigger than this. It's going to be bigger than 1.5. So if you are going to overbet with a hand like pocket eights, ace-7, make it really big. Otherwise, you are better off going for a smaller bet size and then having your opponent check raise you, right, when you've got a strong hand, like the ace-7 or the pocket eights. You'll get more value that way, right? So between these two boards, the overbet size here, this 1.5 overbet size, is going to the 10-9-4, because a hand like ace-10, pocket jacks, right, doesn't benefit as much from betting small and getting check raised. It's not going to happen as often compared to 7-6-2. If you bet small, you're getting check raised a lot. Just because basically any two overcards is a draw when there's not as many overcards on the 10-9-4. Obviously, there's loads of straight draws still. So that gives away the answer to this next one, 7-6-2. We're going to be going for the 3/4 pot bet. So 3/4 pot bet, so slightly smaller size, right? Just getting value from a 7 and those weaker overpairs, trying to get loads of value from 7x, 6x hands, straight draws around the 7 and 6, which is going to be a lot of them. And obviously, overcards or backdoor flush draws are going to float. And at some frequency, you're going to be using a much bigger overbet size with hands like pocket eights, pocket nines, ace-7, But if you don't have that option, you can go for this 3/4 pot size and then hope your opponent actually raises you. So with 3/4 pot, you can effectively deny equity from overcard type hands, especially weaker overcard type hands. And then when your opponent has a 7x hand, right, or even like a 6x hand, just like a 1 pair hand with a decent kicker or something like that, they're going to go for a check raise sometimes to deny equity from your overcard hands, just because both players have loads of overcards on this particular board. So when you've got pocket 8s, pocket 9s, you get value by going for the flop 3-bet. So you just you raise their check raise. So it goes like 3/4 pot, and they raise you, and then you click it back essentially. And then there's some all-ins there with like A7 versus pocket 8s type stuff. Anyway, we're not looking at a sim, but that's just something to watch out for. All right, second biggest size, the pot size bet. As you might have imagined from the previous question, on the 982, we're going for the overbet, but that was the rainbow board. So this is the flush draw board. So we go slightly smaller. So we go for the pot size bet instead. Same sort of reasons, except with the flush draw, the top pair hands, the pocket 10s, and so the ace 9, the pocket 10s, the pocket jacks, those hands, they're still quite strong, but they're not as strong as if they were on a rainbow board, because the big blind has a lot of decent hands to defend with. Like a hand like ace 8 or like even queen 8 with the flush draw is currently like ahead of your hand. So it's going to be like 1 pair with backdoor flush draw type stuff. I mean, that's prevalent throughout. And then like overcards with the flush draw, it's not super clear whether that hand is stronger than yours or is weaker than yours. I mean, it's very close on the board, on the flop at the moment. So you don't want to put too much money in with those hands on the flop just to see a turn that is sort of devastating for your hand. Although you do still want to get value from weaker draws, such as the weaker flush draws and the straight draws. So yeah, pot size bet, you can go there. What bet sizes we have left? Got the half pot bet and the quarter pot bet. Half pot bet. So here, 873, similar sort of idea to the 862, except once again you've got a flush draw, so you can bet a little bit smaller. Both these two boards are going to be using like a half pot and a 3/4 pot. But the main thing to notice is that there's a slight difference. Here they've got a flush draw. Here you've got, no flush draw. And so when there's a flush draw, you bet slightly smaller. When there's no flush draw, you bet slightly bigger. Yeah, pretty straightforward. And the Jack 8-3, you notice on this particular board, it's 4-span. There's the opener with the 10-9. There's a fair few gut shots. But if you have a Jack X, if you have an 8X hand, you can get really thin value by betting small and trying to get value from ace high overcards. And those gut shots, and there's not a lot of point betting too big because you're just going to run into a set of whatever without accomplishing anything, because those overcard hands are going to fold out anyway, and your weaker top pairs can get value from the opponent because they don't have a lot of 2-pair combos, well, not as many 2-pair combos on this particular board. So Jack 8-3, they got Jack 8 suited, don't have a Jack 8 offsuit. They got Jack 3 suited, don't have any 8-3 suited. So there's not going to be that many 2-pair combos on the Jack 8-3. So if you have a top pair hand like a Jack X, you can go for a thinner value bet, right? And you can value bet a hand like Jack 2. You can value bet a hand like, you can go all the way down. Here on the button, you can go all the way down like 10-8 offsuit, like 8-6 suited kind of stuff, and go for a really small bet. And that would be a fairly thin value bet. You can deny equity from overcard type hands. Backdoor flush draw with like 1-over type hands will kind of have to float you, and ace highs will have to float you, and then you can just check back the turn and then play the river and get the showdown that way. Of course, if you have a really strong hand like an overpair, betting this size sort of induces a check raise out of your opponent, so you can get value that way. Of course, you can also just overbet the turn after they call the small bet. That means they just don't have those two pair and set combinations anymore. At least at frequencies that are much lower. So you just go like quarter pot here, and then a brick card comes on turn, which this board is fairly dry, so a lot of bricks are going to come on the turn, and then you just go twice the pot, whatever. Also on a jack, if an ace comes, you can overbet as well, because the ace jack is the same way, same kind of, ends up being the same kind of board as that ace jack that we looked at earlier in the earlier questions. All right, so hopefully I did the data entry correctly, and we can compare and contrast our score of 100%, because I'm giving you the answers, to the average score, which is 46.83%. This is the average score, so it's the average score of all the attempts, not just the first attempt. So if the first attempts are usually a lot lower. So the average first attempt is going to be well below 46%. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this little rambling quiz, and I hope you learned something. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye now.